Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Pada Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Welcome everybody to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Thank you for attending. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 9. Sorry, Chapter 16. And today's text, I think, is text number 9. Okay, good. So,
that's correct.
Thank you. Esa nityo avyaya suksma. Okay, let's repeat. Esa nityo vyaya suksma. Esa sarvasraya svadrik. Atma maya guner visvam. Atmanam srijate prabhu. Esa nityo vyaya suksma. Esa sarvasraya svadrik. Atma maya guner visvam. Atmanam srijate prabhu. Okay, let's try. Esa nityo vyaya suksma. Esa sarvasraya svadik. Atmamaya guner visvam. Atmanam srijete prabhu. Anybody else would like to recite?
Esha nityo vyaya sukshma.
Esa nityo vyaya suksma.
Esha Sarvashraya Swadrik.
Esa Sarvasraya Svadik.
Atma Maya Gunar Vishvam.
Atma Maya Guner Vishvam.
Atmanam Srijate Prabhu.
Atmanam Srijate Prabhu.
Esha Nityobhaya Sukshma.
Esa Nityo Vyaya Sukshma.
Esha Sarvashaya Svadrik.
Esa Sarvasraya Svadik.
Atma Maya Gunar Vishvam.
Atma Maya Guner Vishvam.
Atmanam Shrujate Prabhu.
Atmanam Srijate Prabhu. Okay, thank you very much. Asa, the living entity. Nitya, eternal. Avyaya, imperishable. Sukshma, very fine, not seen by the material eyes. Esa, this living entity. Sarva Asraya, the cause of different types of bodies. Svadrik, self-effulgent. Atma Maya Gune, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead's modes of material nature. Vishvam, this material world. Atmanam, himself. Srijate, appears. Prabhu, the master. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The living entity is eternal and imperishable because he actually has no beginning and no end. He never takes birth or dies. He is the basic principle of all types of bodies, yet he does not belong to the bodily category. The living being is so sublime that he is equal in quality to the Supreme Lord. Nonetheless, because he is extremely small, he is prone to be illusioned by the external energy, and thus he creates various bodies for himself according to his different desires. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda, simultaneous oneness and difference, is described. The living entity is eternal, Nitya, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the difference is that the Supreme Lord is the greatest. No one is equal or greater than him. Whereas the living entity is Suksma, or very small. The Shastra describes the magnitude of the living entity is 1/10,000th, the size of the tip of a hair. The Supreme Lord is all-pervading. Andantara sta paramanu jayantara stam. Relatively, if the living entity is accepted as the smallest, there should naturally be inquiry about the greatest. The greatest is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the smallest is the living entity. Another peculiar characteristic of the jiva is that he becomes covered by Maya. Atma Maya Gune, he is prone to being covered by the Supreme Lord's illusory energy. The living entity is responsible for his conditional life in this material world, and therefore he is described as Prabhu, the Master. If he likes, he can come to the material world, and if he likes, he can return home back to Godhead. Because he wanted to enjoy this material world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave him a material body through the agency of the material energy. As the Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita 1861, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hirdeshe Arjuna Tistati Brahmayam Mayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The Supreme Lord gives the living entity a chance to enjoy in this material world as he desires, but he openly expresses his own desire that the living entity give up all material aspirations, fully surrender unto him, and return home back to Godhead. The living entity is the smallest, Suksma, Jiva Goswami says in this connection that the living entity within the body is extremely difficult for materialistic scientists to find, although we understand from authorities that the living entity is within the body. The body is different from the living entity. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumitham Yana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchaka Patrubhyascha Kripa Sindhurevacha Patita Nama Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it seems like we are having a back to basics course again. Somehow we should have graduated from this concept. So the verse again, the living entity is eternal and imperishable because he actually has no beginning and no end. He never takes birth or dies. He is the basic principle of all types of bodies. Yet he does not belong to the bodily category. The living being is so sublime that he is equal in quality to the Supreme Lord. Nonetheless, because he is extremely small, he is prone to be illusioned by the external energy, and thus he creates various types. And thus he creates various bodies for himself according to his different desires. So, of course, we remember from Bhagavad Gita, 2:17. Where's the verse? It's went missing. So Bhagavad Gita 2:17. Avinasi tu tad vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasam avaya yasya na kaschit kartum arhati. Know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. So this is Krishna imparting knowledge about the soul to Arjuna. So we learn, in these verses in chapter 2, more about, nature of the soul, that it cannot be cut by any weapon, cannot be destroyed by any weapon, and so forth. So again, we see, throughout the Bhagavatam, this reminder is there. It's not like, we've graduated from this understanding that there is a difference between the soul and the super soul, that we are not these bodies. We are nothing but spirit soul. And then, of course, in this verse, we are getting more descriptions. The living being is so sublime that he is equal in quality to the Supreme Lord. So we understand, Prabhupada is mentioning the purport here, that in this verse, the philosophy of Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva is described. So what is this Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva? So we know from Lord Chaitanya, he, expounded this philosophy of Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva. And so what is this philosophy of simultaneous oneness and difference? So I just wanted to quickly read a summary here. Find it. Okay, this is a summary of this doctrine, Lord Chaitanya's Tattva, which is called the Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the doctrine of Sri Madhvacharya, while at the same time recognizing certain important aspects contained in the Tattva of the other three Vaishnav Sampradayas. So we understand there's 4 Vaishnav Sampradayas. Lord Chaitanya brought these teachings together in the perfection of Prema Dharma, Lord Chaitanya's own words as quoted by Sri Jiva Goswami. From Madhava, I will take 2 essential teachings: his complete rejection and defeat of the Mayavadi philosophy, and his service to the deity of Krishna, accepting him as an eternal spiritual personality. From Ramanuja, I will accept 2 teachings: the concept of devotional service, unpolluted by karma and gyan, and service to the devotees. From Vishnu Swami's teachings, I will accept two elements, the sentiment of exclusive dependence on Krishna and the path of Raga Marg, or spontaneous devotion. From Nimbarka, I will take two very important principles, the necessity of taking shelter of Srimati Radharani and the high esteem of the gopis' love for Krishna. Lord Chaitanya instructed the mass of people in Sankhya philosophy of Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, which maintains that the Supreme Lord is simultaneously one with and different from his creation. Lord Chaitanya taught this philosophy through the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. He taught that the holy name of the Lord is the sound incarnation of the Lord, and that since the Lord is the absolute whole, there is no difference between his holy name and his transcendental form. Thus, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can directly associate with the Supreme Lord by sound vibration. As one practices this sound vibration, one passes through three stages of development: the offensive stage, the clearing stage, and the transcendental stage. In the offensive stage, one may desire all kinds of material happiness, but in the second stage, one becomes clear of all material contamination. When one is situated on the transcendental stage, one attains the most coveted position, the stage of loving God. Lord Chaitanya taught that this is the highest stage of perfection for human beings. So I thought this was a nice summary, of our philosophy in Krishna consciousness. And I actually, couldn't remember how Lord Chaitanya had, taken all of these facets from these other sampradayas and, blended them into perfection, so that, there's no contradictions with these different Vaishnava sampradayas. So the idea is that, the living entity, of course, as spirit souls, we're undergoing a material experience. And of course, we have this tendency to try to enjoy and lord it over the material nature. So this is, the inherent defect which brought us here to the spiritual world, because we wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna. And so as a result, we find from this verse, or Purport Prabhupada is explaining that, just because of this desire to enjoy, the material energy was, the perfect situation for us to come and try to enjoy our own senses. And so as a result, we find ourselves in this material world, 8,400,000 species of life, going through this cycle for, millions and millions of birth, undergoing so many different experiences in different material bodies. Somehow, by the mercy of a devotee, we have this opportunity, or at least we should say, somehow, we have come to this human form of life where we can inquire, who am I? What is my purpose? And so we should not waste, this valuable opportunity of the human form of life. And for many of us, we've been very, very fortunate to come across a devotee who, by his mercy, has given us this valuable Krishna consciousness. And so the idea is that the living entity, because he wants to enjoy separately, he is now, trying to please his own senses. And so we've been learning in the last few days from the different classes, that this should not be the focus of how to gratify our own senses. We should become expert and learn how to gratify the senses of Krishna. And so this seems to be, achievable goal for us to try to learn and perfect how to gratify the senses of Krishna. So, every time our mind keeps, taking us through so many trials and tribulations of life, we should, somehow or the other ingrain in our mind, in the core of our heart, try to ingrain it that, we don't want to gratify our own senses. We want to figure out, what is the best way in all circumstances, 24 hours a day, how to gratify the senses of Krishna. And in this way, we can slowly be able to extricate ourselves from this material world with the ultimate view of going back home, back to Godhead. So of course, easier said than done, but by regularly, at least even listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam classes and devotees sharing their realizations, we can gradually take drops of nectar, and of course not just hear these drops of nectar, but also try to implement these practical realizations in our own daily lives. And of course, as a basic principle, we all should be trying to do, and I try my best to. We understand from the Shastra one good methodology that we can use to gratify Krishna's senses is to dovetail our propensities in Krishna's service. So whatever our propensity might be, we should try to figure out how can we dovetail it in the service of the Lord. So, for example, one may like to sing, so one can come and chant for the pleasure of the deities, for the pleasure of the devotees. We can chant, and there's so much of nice bhajans. Of course, kirtan is always there. So in this way, if one likes to dance for the pleasure of the Lord. So in this way, we should try to keep figuring out how can I dovetail my propensity in the service of the Lord. And in this way, we want to also not forget this principle of dovetailing these propensities to please the senses of Krishna. And in this way, we can try to at least make some advancement in spiritual life. Otherwise, just getting wrapped up, in material activities day after day, one eventually finds himself getting exhausted. We had a nice family come last weekend, and I spent some time speaking with them, and they both qualified persons. One is a dentist, the wife is a dentist, and the husband is in finance. And when they came to Gita Nagari, they were just completely enamored by the atmosphere, the surroundings, the peacocks, the cows, the prasad, everything. They were just, in so much of bliss, so to speak. They were expressing, how happy they were to find this place. And they were sharing that they've been here now in America for 20 years. And initially, they just came, of course, with this idea of the American dream, trying to gratify their senses to the max, go to the movies, go to Disney World, go to every possible place. And so they did this for many years. And they said, after about 5 to 7 years, there was nowhere else to go except for repeating the cycle again, let's go to the movies, let's go back to Disney World, let's go back to this place and that place. And, eventually they got exhausted, of the cycle and started to think there must be more. And so then at some point they started, trying to figure out, okay, what else can I do? And somebody had told them about meditation. And so then they were looking for a place to go and meditate. They thought, okay, this seems a nice idea. Let me find a place to meditate. And they said, on the East Coast, there's practically not much facility, for a place to go and meditate. Their idea was, to find rural, large, place where they can, have some peace and quiet. This is what they were looking for. And so eventually they found some Buddhist facility in upstate New York. And say they used to drive, far away from home. But it gave them, so much of solace just being in this peaceful environment that they did that for many years. And then gradually, somehow or the other, they met the devotees and started to go to the Tawako temple. So they liked that very much as well. And somehow or the other, they were talking to a devotee one day at Bhakti Center, and someone mentioned Gita Nagari. So they were like, Gita Nagari? Where's this Gita Nagari? And immediately they started looking, to see where is Gita Nagari. And there was, they asked somebody for a flyer, anybody has got a flyer about this Gita Nagari? And of course, nobody knew anything. So quickly they got on the internet and, found the address. And of course, they went to our website and I immediately started to make plans. We need to go to this place. And actually, last weekend, they were bringing their son to some facility that had slides and a water park. And, that was the goal. But before they could get there, they thought, well, it seems like Gita Nagari is just an hour away. We already drove more than 2 hours. So maybe we'll quickly go there and then go to the water park. So somehow this intelligence kicked in and they made it in time for lunch prasad. I think they came for article also. So, just such nice devotees, And then we started to talk about, Gita Nagari and the facility. And so I was explaining to him, some of our future development plans, how we want to, develop the trails into more of places of that devotees can, come and experience Krishna's pastimes, in the forest. And he said, no, don't worry about all of that. That'll come later. For now, what you have, the cows, the prasad, the peacocks, and just, the environment is so wonderful. So his advice to me was just focus on advertising and marketing the place, because he quickly did some research on social media, and there's very little mention of Gita Nagari. And so, he quickly pointed that out. He said, for example, he said, persons these days mostly use Instagram. And I searched for Instagram, for Gita Nagari on Instagram, doesn't exist. And I was protesting, no, I think we got that together. I said, no, I'm showing you, there's nothing about Gita Nagari. So I was really shocked and surprised to hear that as well. It seems like we have gita.nagari.eco.farm on Instagram, but you have to type those words to find it, not just Gita Nagari. So anyway, he was just so happy, to find Gita Nagari, and we'll be more in touch on how we can, how he can help promote the farm more. But sorry, where was I going with this? The idea is that we want to dovetail our propensities in Krishna consciousness. And so one example that Prabhupada often gives, the different limbs of the body cannot enjoy life independently. They must cooperate with the whole body and supply food to the stomach. In doing so, all different parts of the body enjoy equally in cooperation with the whole body. That is the philosophy of Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference. The living entity cannot enjoy in opposition to the Supreme Lord. He has to dovetail his activities with the Supreme Lord by practicing Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga. So in this idea of, trying to gratify the senses of Krishna and not our own senses, I was thinking about my own personal life that, oftentimes, for example, if I have some maha sweets to share. So the basic principle, I think, that, we all try to, well, at least I should speak for myself, that I generally do is one for you, two for me. One for you, three for me. One for you, two for me. And so, gradually we should try to change this, philosophy and, of cheating the system, so to speak, and, gradually try to minimize it, that, okay, one for me, three for you. One for me, four for you. Because, the connection I was making was, trying to cheat the system will not work as far as gratifying our senses. So, the big question is, why should everything be for Krishna's pleasure? What about me? I'm the living entity. So, we're constantly trying to figure out, how can I gratify my own senses? Okay, I'm very minute, I accept that. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and, he is unlimited. Still, whilst I'm serving, we're constantly having, this thought of, how can I please myself? And then I was thinking, Vishvarupa, we read in the previous chapters how Vishvarupa was acting as the spiritual master of the demigods. And of course, because, Indra had asked him to act as the spiritual master, he had offended his spiritual master Brihaspati, and, the demons were just defeating the demigods like anything. And so then we find that, Vishvarupa was definitely acting as the priest, the chief priest of the demigods. But whenever he was doing, sacrifices, offerings of oblations, he was doing it mainly for the benefit of the demigods. But because of his, family heritage, on his wife's side, there was some demoniac family as well. He was, doing some oblations on behalf of the demons, also on the side. So, he was thinking nothing's wrong, with this. I am, of course, acting as a spiritual master to benefit the demigods, and he was doing that, as Indra had instructed him to, help out and, benefit us. But because of this lineage, he was on the quiet, slowly offering, oblations for the benefit of the demons as well. And so, of course, what happened when he cheated? Indra, as soon as he found out, he didn't waste time. He just separated his head. So in this way, we should, have no doubt that we're in the material world. Everything is happening by action and reaction. And in this way, if we try to cheat the system, like Prabhupada always says, that somehow has been ingrained in my mind that the material energy is inherently unforgiving. I definitely do forget it from time to time, but then somehow or the other, I try to always remember that the material energy is inherently unforgiving. So no matter what we do in the material world, we understand there's action and reaction. If we do good, good's going to have to come back to us, and that may, be the price of us taking birth in the material world again, so that good karma can come to us. If we do bad, of course, bad's going to come to us. And so the only solution that's left for us to do is to act on the transcendental platform, that we want to use the even mode of goodness as a springboard to get onto the transcendental platform. And in this way, we are sinless. We do not get any reaction. So we understand by chanting this Maha Mantra, as we heard from the purport here, that by practicing Krishna consciousness, by chanting this Maha Mantra, which is non-different to Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that we can have direct association with Krishna, and thereby go back home, back to Godhead. So we understand that, Krishna wants us to come back home, back to Godhead. He is, in the heart as witness, overseer, and permitter, and, waiting for us to take direction from him in terms of how to go back home, back to Godhead. And we need to be able to purify ourselves because, we've been conditioned in this material world for so many lifetimes, lifetime after lifetime. And because of this deep conditioning, we are wandering in this material world, birth after birth. So we have an opportunity by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that we have access to this Maha Mantra, access to association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we should not, waste the opportunity. Even though, we are so small, extremely small, still, because we have the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we should use, every moment of our time to be Krishna conscious, and thereby return back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada says here, of course, in the purport, that, the living entity is responsible for his conditional life in the material world. I know we'd like to blame somebody else that, such and such person, because of my parents, I've taken birth. No, yes, all of these things are simultaneously true, but ultimately we need to take responsibility for our birth in the material world. And so, of course, we're, constantly trying to be, like Prabhupada is saying in the purport, trying to be Prabhu, the master. If he likes, he can come to this material world, and if he likes, he can return back home, back to Godhead. So the ability is in us, and like we've been learning from the devotees in the previous classes, that we need to take full advantage of the association of pure devotees of the Lord, and by this kind of association, we can gradually purify ourselves to be able to become a candidate to go back home, back to Godhead. And in this very lifetime, we don't have to take, another birth. This is the beauty of this age of Kali Yuga, that, we don't have to do so much, we don't have to perform austerities for, like previous ages, performing austerities for 10,000 years, 20,000, 100,000 years. You don't have to perform these kinds of austerities to be able to go back home, back to Godhead. So the process is very, very simple in this lifetime. Just chant this Maha Mantra, associate with devotees, and in this way we can gradually purify ourselves and go back home, back to Godhead. So, sometimes the philosophy gets, so intricate, and, sometimes I think, wow, will I ever be able to understand, all these intricate natures of our philosophy. I read one quick thing about the Sachinta Beda Beda Tattva. Where was it? Oh, I didn't copy it. Yeah, Nyaya, philosophy, and all these intricacies. And I was like, wow, it's too difficult for my brain to understand, the intricacies of just philosophy on its own. So I was thinking it's much simpler to dovetail our propensities in Krishna consciousness. Of course, the eternal question is there, what is my propensity? And, this seems to be another big question that devotees constantly ask. But, as one is practicing chanting this Maha Mantra sincerely, with a view of developing a relationship, or uncovering our relationship, I should say, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because, Krishna is in the heart. So we're Krishna conscious, by nature, but, due to these layers of coverings, we've forgotten our real identity. And in this way, we constantly wandering in this material world, but we have this ability to, uncover that, become connected with Krishna, and go back home, back to Godhead. So we should not, waste this human form of life by trying to enjoy our own senses and please the senses of Krishna. So, in whatever activities we do on a day-to-day basis, we should be constantly thinking, is this pleasing to my spiritual master? Is this pleasing to Krishna's senses? And if it's not, don't do it. Scrolling social media. Sometimes, devotees, we get a little technical that, yes, I'm scrolling looking for Bhagavatam verses. No, Veda base is there. There's enough Bhagavatam verses. Or open the Bhagavatam itself. But, we're always trying to, again, cheat the system. Let's not try to cheat the system and figure out how we can please Krishna's senses. So dovetail our propensities in Krishna consciousness. What's our propensity? As we sincerely chant this Maha Mantra, Krishna will reveal via our spiritual master, what exactly is our propensity if we're confused. But otherwise, like Krishna was advising Arjuna, on the battlefield, that because Arjuna's plan was to go meditate in the forest. He thought this is a better solution. Let's not create so much of drama by, so much of killing in a war. Let me just go and meditate in the forest. But Krishna was explaining that, you have to do your duty. You're a Kshatriya, and, a Kshatriya's duty is to fight. And so you have to do your duty. And, even there in that section of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was also explaining to Arjuna that, even I have to do, Krishna himself has to, do his duty in one sense, because if he doesn't act, then, everybody will follow in his footsteps. Whatever a great man does, common men will follow. But even he has to, act. So in this way, Arjuna cannot take the so-called simple way out and go to the forest. He has to fight. And of course, then Arjuna was explaining that if I fight, I'll incur so much of reaction. But Krishna had, defeated that philosophy of Arjuna's, that, if he's just doing his duty, he will incur zero sin. Not even just, 1%, 2%, 5%, or 0.5%, zero sin, if he is doing his duty and, acting on Krishna's order. And so in a similar way, what is our propensity, in the association of devotees? We can definitely figure this out, but otherwise there's no excuse not to act in Krishna consciousness. So if you have not figured it out, what your propensity is, like I made the excuse initially, coming to Gita Nagari to farm. My propensity is not to farm. So, why should I be farming? But somehow, following the order of, senior devotees, following the orders of my spiritual master, somehow the other way of farming. So I haven't figured out propensity yet, but still, at least, we're trying to chant Hare Krishna in the association of devotees, trying to please the devotees, trying to develop the farm for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters, and for the pleasure of the devotees. So in this way, there's enough work in the material world for all of us to participate in this adventure of Krishna consciousness by dovetailing our propensities. Okay, enough speaking. Any comments, questions? There was a lot more that I had made notes of, but somehow or the other I went off in some direction. Okay, some comments, questions, devotees, corrections.
Video. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Excellent.
Excellent class. Always bringing us back to the basics. Man, just like the essential points of Krishna consciousness. We're servants, everything. So very nice. And this was also an excellent verse. Wow.
Yeah.
Brought a lot to mind. One verse, Ishopanishad 1:7. Yasmin sarvani bhutan yatmaivad bud vijanataha tatra ko mahakashoka ekatvam anupashyataha. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks in quality, one with the Supreme, is a true knower of things. What then shall be illusion or anxiety for him? I'm just thinking about how we're in quality, we're one with the Supreme. There's a Chintya Veda Beta Tattva, and this concept in the purport about being small and how Krishna is great, and how I haven't realized that, but something that always would help me in the past years is like just repeating this little phrase, like, I'm small, but Krishna is great. And then you feel like, I feel so encouraged, like, okay, like he's got it handled, like, like things are okay. And then I was just reflecting on this word that the soul cannot be destroyed and it's imperishable. And I was thinking, yes, the soul cannot be destroyed, but what we hear that what does get destroyed, which is such nectar, is that in the Bhagavatam class, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. That's what we hear, that by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. So it's so nectar that we get to be hearing these classes. And we were also talking a few weeks ago about Srimad Bhagavatam 129 and 110 about how life's desires should not be directed towards sense gratification. We're meant to inquire into the absolute truth. So I was appreciating you talking about how we're here to satisfy Krishna's senses, not our own senses. and just you reminding us that we can choose to be in the material world or the spiritual world, and that's what this purport is talking about. We're here because, you know, we chose to be, and it's our responsibility to choose. We can go to the spiritual world again. And I liked how you said the quote that this ability is in us to choose to go back. And we can actually gratify our own senses by gratifying Krishna's senses. When we gratify Krishna's senses, our senses become gratified. And I liked how you were saying you like to dance, you like to sing, then just do that for Krishna. Use whatever you like most. You can offer that to Krishna with the most devotion, is something I read recently. So, of course, you know, you take that with a grain of salt, like murder is not, I mean, Arjuna was, you know, asked to murder, but Krishna was sanctioning. And there's this concept about the enjoying spirit. It's just something I've been reflecting on, because we can, you know, the enjoying spirit is it's just part of the soul. Like Prabhupada says in the purport to Adi Leela 1429, life is meant for varieties of enjoyment. The living entity is by nature full of an enjoying spirit, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra 1112, Anandamayo Bhyasat. So that's just part of our nature. So it's nice to remember that it's about enjoying separately from Krishna is the problem, not that like we're enjoying spirit. Like that's part of us. And just I wanted to reflect. You said the bank accounts a few weeks ago, or the three bank accounts. I think it's the material bank account,
a good bank account.
the bad bank account, and then the spiritual bank account, right? Good, bad, and spiritual. So the spiritual would be the transcendental one, wherever you're not incurring reactions
Right.
to these things. Yeah, it's very nice. And lastly, just I think we can all reflect beautifully on Bhagavad Gita 6:6. It's such a nectar verse. Bandorat matmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanas tu shatrutve varte tatmaiva shatruvat. For the mind is an unconquered enemy. You know, it's your enemy or it's your best friend, that verse. And it talks so nice in the purport about following the dictations of the Supreme. So you were talking about Krishna's in the heart, and how Bhagavad Gita 15:15 tells us that, and how there's also the two birds in the heart. We hear that from Mundaka Upanishad 3:1-2 and Saitashvatara Upanishad 4:7. And just to connect with the dictations of the Supreme, it talks like so much about that, and how like we are under the dictations of like avarice, lust, and things like that, but we want to be under the dictations of Krishna. And it's like such a nice, beautiful purport. It's a short one. You can actually try to memorize that purport. So it would be so nice to reflect on that one. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
All right. Thank you so much, Jana. Thank you for all the drops of nectar. I'm going to go try and follow your instructions and learn that purport. At least one small thing I can do. So thank you so much.
One of the workers actually snuck back.
Jana, thank you for connecting all the dots always so beautifully.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't want to create any undue pressure, but I'm wondering when we're going to fit Jana Vatsala into the class schedule.
Now that you brought it up, this has been on everybody's mind. And I was thinking that if she doesn't take a day for herself, maybe we can, next week I can speak for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I can ramble something for 15 minutes. And then maybe Jana can share her realizations on next week's verse. And then if she likes it, we can take her own day. So we're not putting pressure.
Yes.
So
No pressure.
no pressure. I'll be the one rambling. And at least she can give us some nice verses to meditate on, and some nice realizations to share. So I didn't mean to bring it up, Jana. It was Taraka Prabhu. You can blame him. But I'll call him.
Blame me, I take full responsibility. I'm okay with that.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
I really I like your statement about how the material nature is inherently unforgiving. We all have some radical experience, but it's important to understand. Srila Prabhupada explains that if you come in contact with a contagion, some disease, then you have to suffer the result, which is a particular type of illness. And he explains that similarly, if you contact the modes of material nature, if you are infected by the modes of material nature, that you have to suffer the consequences, which means bondage to the cycle of birth and death. There is a nice example that Ramapad Swami once gave when he was here at Gita Nagari, that if you make certain choices, you're more or less forced to accept the karmic reactions for your choices. You can't commit a particular act and then choose not to accept the reaction. You're bound to accept the reaction. And the example that he gave was made it the point very clear. He said, if you choose to jump out the window of a tall building, you can't decide halfway down that you don't want to hit the pavement. The reaction is going to come. It's also true that by devotional service, you can burn up all kinds of reactions to your both sinful and pious activities. Reactions of all kinds are burned up by devotional service, and so devotional service can actually change your fate. Nothing else can do that. There's no other means by which you can change your destiny, but it can be done by devotional service. But don't expect that you can jump out a window and then frantically chant Hare Krishna on the way down and expect a soft landing. May be possible for a very advanced soul like oh gosh, I'm having another senior moment, forgive me. Prahlad Maharaj was thrown off of mountains, cliffs, and Krishna protected him. But that of course is an exceptional case. If you're as pure as Prahlad Maharaj, then perhaps you can be thrown off a tall building and have a soft landing. But for the rest of us, better to not make foolish choices and simultaneously to endeavor as far as possible to remain always fixed up in devotional service and not deviate from that, because it's a razor's edge, little deviation, and there'll be bloodshed. So we have to be very careful. Want to try to mold our life in such a way that we're always engaged in devotional service 24 hours. Anyway, that's my comment. Hare Krishna. Oh, and thanks for your class.
Thank you. I'm going to quickly just move to the Tulsi room there. And any more comments or questions?
Haribol,
Yeah.
Prabhu,
Haribol.
thank you so much for answering my call to extend the Bhagavatam class, because Bhagavatam has been very addictive these past few days. So thank you for giving us this real estate. So my question relates to the point about cheating the system. So we see in devotional service, especially for devotees on the sadhana platform, still performing devotional service in regulation, that when you begin to perform austerities, there's a dopamine deficit. in the brain. So you don't get, you're giving up, you're foregoing material pleasure so that you can become attached to a higher taste. And so in that process, there's a tendency to fill the gap with some compulsive behavior. So you're giving the example of scrolling on social media. We've seen devotees even being addicted to chocolate. Some work, long hours, and so they're unable to go to bed on time and attend the morning program. Maybe, like you come to Gita Nagari and their social needs aren't met. And so they want to, stay connected on social media. So this form of code, according to your definition, would be cheating the system. So how do you, just make progress so that you can become detached to these compulsive behavior that is arising from a dopamine deficit?
This question is too complicated for my brain. Hey, we have a scholar here. Maybe he can give us some insights. I mean, for myself personally, at least if I, understood some parts of your question, all we can do is try our best. And, according to the sincerity of our endeavors in Krishna consciousness, there's no doubt, I think, we can look at so many examples, but there's no doubt that, Krishna will reciprocate with us. We understand the power of prayer, that's one of the forms of devotional service that we can do. Just prayer alone, can take us back home, back to Godhead. So, we should not underestimate all of these things, but at least for myself, these long hours, long days, I keep telling you that, my meditation is, we just need to do the best we can. Of course, we don't want to commit, what's a better word than this? We don't want to lose our Krishna consciousness, whilst working long hours and, exerting ourselves physically, as the case might be, so that, we lose our own Krishna consciousness. We need to be, very, very mindful of that, and not be foolish in one sense, because that would be foolish to, lose your own Krishna consciousness. So, all of us have different abilities, and, we should not push the boundary, so to speak, in that regard, and, try our best, and Krishna will definitely help. I know I've been singing this song for many, many years now, 16 years in total, but that the troops are going to arrive one day in Gita Nagari. And we can see, of course, in our journey, you've been here for 6 years now. You can see, devotees come, devotees go, but somehow, all the services get done. There hasn't, I think, been a time where, everybody leaves and nobody stays to do the services. Radha Damodar have been worshipped successfully, very, very nicely, since installation. And so, somehow, yes, there is, ups and downs, but this is, the nature in the material world, that, these things go up and down. So we just need to, try by our sincere efforts, and continue trying to please Krishna. Anyone else has some thoughts on Nagari's complicated question about dopamine deficit?
Thanks, Prabhu. Sorry, just before somebody answers the question, I mean, these addictions I have, so I'm not trying to call anybody out, my fellow farm residents. I also have an addiction to chocolate, and I try to stay away from it. Addiction to long working hours. So I'm not, that's just a disclaimer on this question.
Yes. No, definitely.
What was the question?
The question is, in one sense, all these addictions are there. As we in Gita Nagari, continue to do our services, how can we, Nagari, how can we balance that, or how can we stay Krishna conscious?
Well, it's more that the idea of cheating the system. So I'm saying you're trying to follow the system, but of performing austerities, giving up lower tendencies. But there's a dopamine deficit that arises, and so it gets filled with some compulsive behavior that's arising from obviously your previous attachments. It may be, compulsive eating, compulsive eating of chocolate, long working hours. Yes, it's for Krishna service, but the consequence is that one is unable to attend the morning program regularly. So, and then also scrolling on social media, one could say, well, um, Gita Nagari, there's not much of a social scene, and I want to maintain contact with the devotees I know and I'm familiar with. So there's some reason that one can generate from trying to follow the system, but you end up cheating the system in one sense. So how to actually overcome these compulsive behaviors in a Krishna conscious way?
I would say then, maybe we just need to do more things together. Sometimes, maybe that isolated time that we have to ourselves, which is very little. I mean, maybe you can measure it up. It might be an hour, it might be 2 hours. But, even though our days are long, I would say that, we need to spend more time together in each other's association. And the only time we're alone is when we go to sleep. So that could be a practical thing that I could see how we can do. If we're serious about, not cheating the system. That's a good question you had about not cheating the system. Yeah, that way someone can call us out. Like, of course, at home, Parijat and I are there most of the time. And, we definitely call each other out. If there's bad habits developing or anything for that matter, we call each other out. And so maybe this kind of association where we can call each other out, because as soon as we're alone in the room, that's when, all of these things seem to appear. What do you think of that?
Hare Krishna.
Very well.
Can I comment a little bit?
Please, please. We want some mercy.
Yeah, basically speaking, there are a lot of things that we do in our devotional life that we do it without having the true understanding of what we are doing. And when it happens like that, like Agari is saying that we cheat the system. How can you cheat the system of Krishna consciousness? There are two people in this world that you can never cheat.
Right.
Number one is Krishna, and number two is yourself.
Right.
So whatever you are doing, when you know you are doing the wrong thing, you know it deep within your heart that this thing I'm doing is not right.
Yes.
But you just look around and see if nobody is looking. But already Krishna has told you that of secrets I am silence. So when everywhere is quiet and nobody seems to be looking, there will be very complete silence in that environment. And this Krishna is telling you, I'm that silence. So if you are actually having knowledge, if you really believe the words of Krishna, then immediately you should understand that there's something there. It's like the guru who was trying to choose his representative, and he gave a chicken to about 100 devotees of his disciples, and he asked them to go around and find a secret place where there is nobody there and kill the chicken and bring it. They went out in a very short time. 50 of the disciples came. They've killed the chicken and brought it. They say they went to a place nobody was there. The guru says, sit down. He waited. They started coming in. Then it was left with one devotee. He spent months and months. Finally, he came back. The chicken was still alive. And the guru said, why do you have the chicken? Because he said, good day. Wherever I go, there's somebody there. And the guru said, what do you mean by wherever I go? All these people were able to kill their fowl, their chicken and brought it quick. He said, if I go to the forest, the trees are there. When I go, everywhere I go, the sky is there, the wind is there. Then the guru said, you are the true devotee.
Mm.
You see, so basically our understanding is it's like there are certain things we may even see it as bad. It's like, for example, if you put your hand in fire, the burning sensation in fire, we perceive it as bad. But in the true sense, it's good. Because if the burning sensation is not there, you will leave your hand there. By the time you are aware, the hand has turned into ashes. So, because Krishna doesn't want your hand to turn into ashes, he has put the burning sensation in there, so that immediately your hand goes there, the burning sensation will remind you that this is not the right place to put your hand.
Good analogy.
You see, and most of the time too, when we are doing our devotional life, it's like there is a story. We practice our devotional life by looking on to people, how people will say about what we are doing. If we do that, making progress will be very difficult for us. Because there's a story of this guy. He was helping the community so much. If you need money, he will help you. If you need any help, this guy will help you in the community. And then one day the guy died. When the guy died, the whole community, they were lamenting. But somehow or the other, so many people in the community dreamt that this guy was going to hell. And so they were like confused. And so the whole community started praying to God that, oh, this guy is so helpful. He's been helping this community so much. Why is he going to hell? And then God made someone appear. He made some angel appear. And the angel told them that, hey, God has heard your prayer. But you people are saying that this guy should be taken to heaven because he has helped your community so much. But me, God, I decided to take him to hell. And you think I made the wrong decision. So I'm giving this guy another opportunity. So the next morning at exactly 5 a.m., I'm going to lower a long ladder, a rope ladder from the heavens to the community center of your community. And this guy is going to wake up. I'm going to wake him up. Now, if he is able to climb the ladder and enter the skies before sunset, I'll take him to heaven. And so the next morning, lo and behold, this ladder descended from the heavens. And this guy waked up. He resurrected from the dead. And he started climbing this ladder. But he started, in the beginning, he was going so fast. But anytime he's going, he will look down. And some of the people in the community has also started climbing the ladder. This guy will descend, he will come down and tell them that, hey, I'm the only one that God has said I should climb this ladder. Go, where are you coming to? Then he will go. He'll go up into the middle. Then he'll turn around and you see another person climbing. This guy will descend and come and tell you, hey, go down. You are not supposed to come. He was like that, up and down until it was sunset. He couldn't climb. He couldn't enter the skies. Why? Because this guy, whatever he's doing, he is always thinking that he is the only perfect person and that every other person is not good. And that was the reason why God was taking him to hell. So even the help that he was giving the community, He was giving the community that help with the mentality that I'm the best. So similarly, if we perform our services like that, with the mentality that I'm the best and that every other person is not good, then we will be cheating ourselves. Because whatever energy you have, if you have to spend long hours, if you have to do whatever you are doing, it's by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. By your own energy, you are useless. There is nothing you can do. But Guru and Krishna blesses you, and you begin to think that I'm very austere, I'm this, I'm that. You are deceiving yourself. You are deceiving yourself. That's why you always have to appreciate any effort, little effort anybody is doing. You appreciate, because we are all not on the same level. And if you are Guru and Krishna has given you some energy to go to a higher level somewhere, all you have to do is you try to pick people up, bring people up, encourage people by your action, by your talk, by your whatever you do to bring people up. This is the way to live in a community. Other than that, you'll be doing so much and still not go nowhere. So it's very important. Krishna has given us the law of good sense. Because of the law of good sense, that is the reason why when you are walking on the street and you see a truck coming, you don't jump in front of the truck. Why? Because Krishna, that is another protection of Krishna, the law of good sense. That law of good sense, that is telling you don't jump in front of the truck. That is the protection from Krishna. So you don't become stupid and say that because I have chanted 110 rounds, I can jump in front of the truck and I'll be okay. You will not be okay. Because you are not applying the law of good sense, which is another form of protection Guru and Krishna has given you. So in the process of performing our devotional life, we should also apply the law of good sense. Other than that, we will get burned out sooner or later.
Yes. Thank you so much for those practical realizations. Yes, when you were saying about, everybody's service definitely matters, I was thinking about the example of when the monkeys were building the bridge to Lanka, that, everybody was trying to help, according to their propensity. And of course, we heard about, the monkeys throwing, Hanuman throwing these, big boulders because they had to build this bridge, writing Ram on the rock and throwing it and it would float. And of course, there was a small spider that was also, moving small grains of stone. And of course, one of the monkeys said, please come out the way, otherwise, you're going to get hurt. What are you doing? We're throwing these massive boulders. But of course, we understand from that past time that, Lord Ram intervened and, he was so appreciative, and that, even the small, tiny spider was, helping build this bridge, according to his propensity. So we shouldn't, in the same way, get puffed up like Hari Chakra Prabhu was saying, that, I am the doer. Yeah, and these are all the subtle differences, as we continue, on this path of bhakti and our gradual development of Krishna consciousness. These could be traps, by Maya, because, we also understand as devotees that Maya has no new tricks, You may have heard devotees say that again and again. Maya doesn't have any new tricks. It's the same old tricks. And it all revolves around coming back to the same point. Maya has no new tricks, and the material energy is inherently unforgiving. So there's no real way to cheat the system. You should just make every endeavor to be truly honest and Krishna conscious. And in this way, we can traverse this journey with a sober mind, not in a drunken state. Otherwise, the danger of fall down is very, very available, so to speak. So, yeah, we shouldn't become so puffed up. Thank you for sharing those practical realizations. Yeah, when Taraka Prabhu was also explaining this, you jump and halfway down, you say, okay, how can I have a good landing? I was thinking, that's also related to the past few days we were talking about, once you're on the slide. So it seems like it's a better idea not to jump, not to get onto the slide. Of course, we're prone to make mistakes, but it seems like in the association of devotees, the more we can, be with each other, do services together, even if it means us maybe teaming up and helping each other to do services, then we don't have that alone time. Like Hari Chakra was saying, once we're alone, nobody's looking, that's when the mind does its thing. So try to minimize our alone time, try to do services together as much as we possibly can. And then the only alone time is sleeping time, the dream state. And gradually, as we, become more and more Krishna conscious, then we can even have, these spiritual dreams. And then we can be 24 hours a day, like Prabhupada said, Krishna conscious, 24 hours a day. Any more questions, comments? Sorry, I'm not checking the...
Hare Krishna, good morning.
Haribol.
Haribol, thank you. What a wonderful class. And look how amazing this is. This is maybe like the second time this week we're like 20 something minutes over and everybody is staying. And it's just been wonderful. And Nagari Krishna all week has brought up some really cool points. And I was thinking about neuroscience has finally caught up with bhakti in a lot of ways. And he had mentioned, and I loved your point too, Dhruva Maharaj. It's like, yeah, the physical laws, I think, are made to bring us into consciousness that there are spiritual laws. And they actually interviewed people who tried to commit suicide by like jumping out of windows or off of bridges, but survived. Well, obviously they survived or they couldn't have been interviewed. And they asked them, what was it like? And most of them said, once I started falling, I realized that every problem, everything that I was upset about could be solved, except the fact that I had just jumped off this bridge. It's like, so yeah, don't jump off the bridge. But there's also a verse in the Bible that says, and it's in Corinthians 10, 1 Corinthians 10, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you're tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. And Krishna's given us a way out. He's given us his presence in his holy name. And in neuroscience, they've done experiments where they've shown by putting sand on tympanic membranes or like drum tops and having people chant, and the sand actually arranges itself into mandalas, into like into these holy, holy forms, just from the chanting. So if it's doing that, how much is it rearranging the cells in our brains, the cells, like literally on a physical level? So when you talk about a dopamine deficit, and then also Gary Krishna mentioned like you need abstinence for, I think he said something like 20 to 30 days away from it. The fact is also they've proven in addiction, in studies about addiction, you also need to replace that with something else that's going to be, higher, that higher taste. So it's just like you're farmers, you have a river and you want the water over here in your field. What do you have to do? You have to dredge deeper to have that channel attract that water where you want it. And then you have to put a dam to stop the water from going where you don't want it to go. And it's pretty much the same thing when we chant, when we associate with devotees. You are laying, for lack of something, fiber optics over what would have been like landline analog. So you're going to choose the better path every time. The more that you practice your sadhana, the more that you associate, the more that you read, that hopefully it begins to overrun, become the path you choose more than the chocolate or the whatever it is that quote unquote you're trying to cheat the system with. But in the verse itself, it said, we choose. Clearly said, we can choose to come here, we can choose to go back. We choose. And so I always have to know it starts and ends with me. You know, Krishna is going to be there as my observer, as my friend, but he's not going to take my hand out of the fire. It's hard. It's like if I choose to go, oh, this hurts, and keep it there. Yes, my hand is going to turn to ashes. So yes, all of the things that I heard today are wonderful. And also, yes, Jana, please teach class. Please, please, please. I'm waiting for that. Like waiting for that. So much nectar and beautiful when she recites Sanskrit, just like uplifting. So all of these things are true. But more than anything, I always have to remember that Krishna is my dearest friend, is always there with his arms outstretched, is always saying, come home. And so I have to choose. I have to choose right, So Hare Krishna, thank you, thank you, thank you. Dhruva, also teach class more. It's always so inspiring and wonderful when you do. Haribo.
Thank you so much. Thank you, devotees. Anyone else?
Hey,
Yeah. Talaka
I
Prabhu.
had a comment. I can't remember what it was.
That's all right.
It was that you were talking about devotees working together. And I can tell you that there was a time when devotees always worked together, and they never worked alone. That was just the unspoken rule, or sometimes it was spoken, but devotees went out on Sankirtan, they went out together. If you were distributing books, you always had a partner. Nobody ever went anywhere alone. If you had to go even to the doctor or something, someone would go along to keep your association. And devotees also did not even sleep alone. Even here at Gita Nagari, the rooms in the old building, we had multiple bunk beds in each room, and there would be 4 to 6 men in each room. Depending upon how many residents we had at the time. If guests were coming, everyone would pile into a single room. But every temple that I served in, there was no there was no private situation, not even in the bathrooms. Sometimes devotees fall victim to Maya. It's been known to happen once or twice. And so the arrangement was that everyone always had association. They were never left alone. And it saved countless devotees all kinds of misfortune. Because sometimes one individual is weak, but if you're paired up with someone else, then maybe one person's weak, but the other person is strong, or vice versa. And somehow or other, we give support to one another. So it's harder to fall into Maya when you're in the company of other devotees, or at least one devotee. Right. It was a good policy. Right. Sometimes circumstances are extenuating, and it's not possible to do that. But as far as possible, it's a good way to go. At least two devotees together, it becomes very dynamic and wonderful. There's an exchange of Krishna Katha and a lot of support, and dynamics are wonderful and uplifting. But one person alone, the mind starts to suggest all kinds of things, and all kinds of things can happen. So Anyway, for whatever it's worth, that was what was going on for decades. I remember being shocked at one point. I don't know, it was probably 20 years ago, now that I think about it, but I discovered that at Gita Nagari, the temple building had been, the rooms were all assigned to a single devotee. Sometimes, a very big room, and there was just one devotee for the entire room. I was very surprised. Such things were unheard of for decades in ISKCON. And all of a sudden, rooms are being assigned to a single person. I had never seen that before. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
May I say one thing?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, your class, Trooper Prabhu. Apologize for being late. I was one of those that was burning the midnight oil, so I got to class late this morning. But many things you said reminded me of a couple of lectures that Gurudev gave. And one was considering in terms of, devotees and how serious they are about this, being on this path. He said, a lot of times we have to consider what is our behavior when the teacher's not in the room. Those that are serious, of course, will continue with the instructions given by the teacher and endeavor to have them completed by the time the teacher gets back in the room, right? And those that are not serious, of course, perhaps throwing spitballs or whatever at each other, playing some kind of games. But it also reminded me of the saying that your character is what you do when you think no one's looking. It's your behavior when you are alone. But then, if you have any kind of consciousness, as Hari Chakraprabhu says, you can't really cheat Krishna, and definitely you can't cheat yourself, because in your heart when you've been serious in doing what you need to do and doing what is right. So just with those two factors, I think kind of helps keep us on the straight and narrow. If we keep those things in mind.
Yeah, it's good points. Thank you for sharing those points. Yeah. And, sometimes we also always, somehow or the other, we're always hearing about, this devotee was not treated nicely, that devotee in that temple was not treated nicely. And, the management did this, the management did that. Did you hear this devotee who, got thrown out of the temple? Did you hear this? Did you hear that? And, over the years in my early Krishna consciousness, I used to hear these things a lot. And, I was always wondering, wow, sounds really, severe. This devotee was living in the temple for 25 years and the management threw him out. And, even when I came to Gita Nagari, I was also hearing similar stories. And so then, of course, I never used to go and do research, to figure out exactly what happened. But, Krishna arranges somehow or the other, you hear different things, even though we are so remote, still somehow or the other, we hear different things. But gradually I came to understand that there's always some circumstance around it. It's not necessarily true. that, this devotee got an unfair treatment. I'm not saying that, those things don't happen. They do happen. But if you get the full story, then you can understand that, oh, okay, that's why, such and such happened. Now, of course, now in ISKCON, at least we have, the devotee care department. And, there's so much of focus on caring for devotees, not denying that, whatever wrongs have happened in the past, those things are also there. So much of, wrongs have been done to devotees, but generally, I'm thinking about, one incident I had heard that, this devotee was 25 years living in the temple, and, everybody just heard one day he was asked to leave. But then turns out, years later, we found out that, yeah, he was not following the regulative principles, and he was not following 3 out of the 4, even whilst living, for such a long time in the temple. And so, yeah, this idea, I mean, I think Mother Lily Kishori, thanks for posting that. This idea again that Maya doesn't need new tricks. She's like a fisherman. All she needs is patience and the correct bait, and the fish will put themselves on the hook. So this is the living entity, we're constantly in this cycle, so to speak. So yeah, we need to be mindful that there's no cheating. I think that's the principle, that there's no cheating in the material world. What goes around will come around. And, we apply it in every facet of our life. Of course, the original scientific guru was, what was his name? Albert Newton. Every action, there is going to be a reaction. And so in the same way, there's no cheating in the material world. Every action, we're going to get some reaction, good, bad, works equally. So we need to be super mindful of no cheating. Any more comments, questions, additions, subtraction? Yes, please,
I'm
Jana.
waiting for Mother Jambavati to give class.
She's going to become very inspired by you. And as soon as she sees that, yes, Jana Vatsala is on the road, yeah, she has a lot to share. But gradually we'll get them on. Gradually.
In the chat, can you turn that on? Dr. James Prabhu said that, like Agari says, the verses the past few days have been addicting. So Agari Prabhu is helping us to change our addictions away from all these other things, but we can attract them into this nectar stream, and we won't go searching for other things.
Right. Yes, and this is practical realization of how to dovetail, these propensities. Okay, you want to use social media? No problem. There is proper use of social media, which is, typically what we're doing. And then there's also, the misuse of social media, scrolling unnecessary sites and things like that, and, getting into spiritual difficulties. So this is, one way we can also, dovetail this propensity we have that, I want to look at a screen, I want to engage with the screen. Okay, no problem. Tune in to the Bhagavatam class in the mornings. And we can have our phone time, our screen time, for 1 hour and 20 minutes now, or 40 minutes. Hare Krishna. So you can have your screen addiction time at the Bhagavatam class.
Hare Krishna. So I'm not sure who, but someone just made a delivery. Looks like water. I don't know who it was. If it was one of the devotees there, tell them thank you very, very much. I thought I heard someone at the door, but when I looked out, a car was pulling off and I couldn't tell what car it was. So,
okay. Yep. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mother Jana. We will definitely try to slowly but surely rope Mother Jambavati in by inspiration.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. All right.
I think I've been teamed up on.
Yeah. This is loving teaming, loving teaming.
Listen, Jana is so advanced now. You know, I see myself sitting at her feet while she's giving class.
No way.
And I'm sure that there are a lot of people that agree with me. Isn't that right, Tarka Prabhu?
We all are eager. We all are eager.
I belong firmly situated at both your feet.
Oh, please.
I really look forward to hearing from both of you.
There you go, Tarka.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
All right,
Tell,
thank
and please tell Ma I have not abandoned her. I will see her soon.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, devotees. Take care. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Go
Jai.
Haribol.
Haribol.